Did you know in Pokemon Emerald you can get a Mewtwo before the Elite Four? Today we'll be looking at 14 obscure secrets just like this in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. So to get a Mewtwo or any other specific Pokemon, you'll have to perform what is called Glitzer Popping. You'll need access to Fly, a Banette with odd HP values that knows Curse and has at least 10 HP EVs, Pluses, the Trade Plusle that only knows Growl, Dots, the traded Seedot that has Flash as its fourth move, a fainted Pokemon, and a Pomegg Berry. So to get Mewtwo specifically, you're going to want Seedot to have 0 attack EVs and 150 HP EVs. We're going to be corrupting data to turn this Seedot into an egg, and the HP EV of the Seedot will be the index number used to determine the egg Pokemon. And since our Seedot has 150 EVs, when done right, it will turn into Pokemon 150, Mewtwo. So next you're going to want to put the Seedot and Plusle in these spots in your second PC box. Now you can duplicate these Pokemon using glitches to get more chances of success per reset, but it's not necessary. To begin the exploit, get your Banette to 1 HP using Curse twice. Next, run from the battle and save. This is where you can reset attempts from. Start a new wild encounter with Banette, then switch to the Flymon and then run away. Deposit the Fly Pokemon into your box so you only have your 1 HP Banette and the fainted Pokemon. Next, give your Banette the Pomegg Berry so that its HP becomes 0. As long as the Banette is around level 40 or higher, this should work no problem. Next, start a new battle and you will have the glitch Pokemon Decamark, Mistigno's long-lost cousin. Next, go to Pokemon and view the summary of your first valid Pokemon. Then back out to the Pokemon page and start scrolling upwards. This is going to corrupt your data, but in the good way that we want to. Once you've scrolled up about 15 to 20 times, run from the battle. Now, this should hopefully turn the Pokemon that you deposited into the box into eggs. This will take multiple tries, and a lot of the time you're going to get corrupted eggs. But because Seedot has 150 EVs, once you find that non-corrupted egg, it will hatch into Mewtwo. Now, once hatched, make sure to level it up in the daycare before using it, as its moves will otherwise be corrupted. But from here, have fun steamrolling the Elite Four. Now, you can perform this Pomegg glitch to get any Pokemon at all, but Mew is a Pokemon with an actual programmed event that some players choose to activate. Emerald has an item called the Old Sea Map, and this can be given to Mr. Briny, and this allows you to take the SS title to Faraway Island. While Mew is directly distributed to some Emerald players, the Old Sea Map was only given to players in Japan and Taiwan. Through a similar set of steps, players can perform an alternate version of the Pomegg glitch, and this will give them the item. What's especially neat about this is the same island that Team Rocket is mentioned to have visited. This is mentioned in Generation 1 behind the lore of the creation around Mewtwo. Now, of course, players are also able to use the Pomegg glitch to get other legendaries in Emerald as well. The Eon ticket can be acquired to be taken to Southern Island, and this lets the player encounter whichever one of Latios or Latias the player does not set to roam in Hoenn. Deoxys can also be encountered with the Aurora ticket, taking the player to Birth Island. Ho-Oh and Lugia can be acquired through similar means via the Sevi Islands on Naval Rock. And even just looking at these locations blows my mind, as I was never able to get there as a kid myself. I just find it so crazy to think how much content there was in Emerald that just went completely unnoticed by me. Also, Marine and Terra Cave. These are caves that appear on a random route in the game for the player to catch Kyogre and Groudon. You definitely know about these, but I just think they're really cool. So that's it. That's the spot. Now, with all that boat discussion, let's now take a look at Slateport City. After getting access to the Slateport Museum, you can go upstairs and examine the statue of the ship where Captain Stern stands. And you'll notice it's a model of none other than Kanto's very own SS Anne. You may also have noticed that the museum's music is actually a remake of Gen 1's SS Anne theme. And that's not the only fun secret in the Hoenn region. Did you ever wonder where the main players, Brendan or May, are actually coming from in the start of their game in their move? Well, there's actually an NPC in Petalburg that talks to you without the understanding that you're Norman's child. And they actually mention that Norman brought his family over from the Johto region. That's you! You are from the Johto region. And speaking of Johto, did you know Emerald has an upgraded Safari Zone after you beat the Elite Four? This is something I actually had no idea about, as most of my Gen 3 time was spent on Sapphire. And it turns out once you beat the Elite Four, there is a special area that opens up which has access to Johto Pokemon. Safari Zone Area 5 has Hoothoot, Wooper, Mareep, Apom, Sunkern, Gligar, Snubbull, and Stantler, while Zone 6 even adds Pineco, Miltank, Teddiursa, Shuckle, and Houndour. Funny to think that the requirements for getting Houndour in both Gen 3 and 2 is to beat the game. Now, another set of Johto Pokemon you can actually acquire is one of the Gen 2 starters. I don't know if I was just a distracted kid, but I had no idea about this growing up. After you complete the Hoendex, Professor Birch will give you the option of one of Chikorita, Cyndaquil, or Totodile. Since there's no way to trade from Gen 2 to 3, I was always under the impression you had to trade from Pokemon Coliseum, but I guess there's another way. Another fun Johto-related fact is that Gen 3 actually has re-updated soundtracks from the Johto games. There's Azalea Town, which sounds absolutely incredible. You've got Violet City also sounding just absolutely immaculate. And even crazier is the legendary Beast Encounter music. While Fire Red and Leaf Green do have these encounters, they don't actually use this song. So it seems to imply that they may have been considering putting them in Emerald and ultimately decided not to. Have you ever seen this hiker before? I've probably rode Hoenn's gondola over 100 times, and outside of seeing Small Ant find him, I don't think I've ever had this guy appear in my actual game. Turns out that this is just a very small random Easter egg where every time you ride it, there's a simple 1 in 64 chance. That works out to about 1.5%, so unlikely but certainly not uncommon at all. Another random Easter egg comes from Rich Boy Dawson, located in the cut accessible area on Route 116. Like many Emerald players, Dawson's Pokemon has a held item, but rather than something normal like a berry, the game devs actually put a nugget on his Zigzagoon. Now, once you go further in the game, you can come back to fight him, and the nugget can be thieved off. But it makes you ask a question. I mean, I see that Zigzagoon's level. Did the Zigzagoon pick it up? Or is the man just a flex god? There's another neat Easter egg in Gen 3 that revolves around this girl named Psychic Jacqueline. Originally, Jacqueline could be found in Ruby and Sapphire. You could find her just after finishing the cycling road on the way to Mauville, but as you're getting off it, you need to turn right instead of left. I've actually never seen this girl before, so she was already a bit of a mystery to me, but if you go to the Sevi Islands, she's actually standing on one small little island. And she'll even mention that her Pokemon's teleport keeps bringing her to the wrong location. Now, one area people find a lot of intrigue in the Gen 3 games is through alternative cutscenes. This basically involves trying to find failsafes that the game devs installed. Things like what happens if you don't pick this item up at a certain point, or what happens if you faint here and go back to a weird spot. There's a classic one that some people know about just after you beat Roxanne. Normally, once the whole Pico escapade is over, you can leave Rustboro, and as you are, your rival will ask to fight you. Now, if you get the badge, you go through that whole Pico section, but then faint before getting to your rival, you can actually trigger an alternate event. Because if you happen to have last visited the Petalburg Pokemon Center, you will be sent there instead of Rustboro. This would then allow you to skip the rival cutscene and head straight to Mr. Briney's. But the game devs actually accounted for this scenario, and if you then head to Mr. Briney's house, your rival will pop out here and ask you to fight. And there's another one of these in Moss Deep City that I was just made aware of from Legend of Obscure Pokemon Secrets, Blue Boy Finn. Normally, Steven gives the player the Dive HM after the Magma double battle in the research facility. But if you happen to have been traded a Pokemon with Dive, once you get the badge, you can actually skip going into Steven's house. And if you never go into the house and go on to beat the Elite Four, this is the marker where Steven takes a leave of absence to go chill in Meteor Falls. Now, you can return to the house, and normally you would just see it empty with a single Pokeball containing the gift Beldum. There is, however, an off chance where if you've never picked up Dive, you would not have activated this cutscene. It turns out if you haven't, the game devs accounted for this, because on top of the Beldum gift, there will be a second Pokeball on the counter containing Dive.